Alright, what's up, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages? This is Wooly here, and let's see. We're going to go ahead and take a look at electric DPS. We're going to look at the AoE build, full AoE build, no finisher here. So we're going to be looking at Voltaic Blast, Arc Lightning, Electrocute, Tesla Ball, Electrogenesis, and of course we're going to be running Circuit Breaker. Circuit Breaker is a 50%er, but the cooldown is pretty much half the time of any other for 50%er. I think Earth Entomb is the same cooldown, but it's so much quicker. So if you're running like Neo Venom or whatever, you can run Circuit Breaker in half the time, and as it says here, create a localized burst of electricity to protect yourself against control effects and increase your damage output. So you do get a damage boost, but if you're running Eye of Gemini like I am, because let's look at the artifacts, Eye of Gemini, Transformation card, Strategist card, we get that buff from the Eye of Gemini. Of course, with people who are standing in it, we get a 20% damage for all people that are standing in it. But we do get a overall 5% might buff or precision buff from just standing in it by yourself. So it doesn't matter if anybody's in it or not, you're still going to get that buff. So good to have, good to keep going, good to keep running. And of course, if you have an EOG healer or a tank in there, that's going to be popping their Eye of Gemini off. It's going to be crazy. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. Somebody just sent me a tail. Hold on, let me send him one back. Alright, so again, here's the build. So the only thing we changed from the last build is we took off the finisher and we put on Electrocute. So I'm going to show you how to run this build. Let's go into the combat tab. Let's look at the parsers. So before we really start looking at the parsers, let me show you the actual rotation. We'll do it slow, and then we'll do the actual 10-second parsers. Then I'm going to show you a couple of tips and tricks to make your DPS a little bit better. So we're going to be running Electrogenesis. We're going to be running Voltaic Blast, Arc Lightning, right? We're going to go to Tesla Ball, Voltaic Blast, Arc Lightning, and then Electrocute. Voltaic Blast, Arc Lightning, Electrogenesis, so on and so forth. So it runs like this. Okay, let me get out of combat. I'm gonna back up here, get out of cooldown. So that's how the rotation is gonna run. Basically, you're gonna want to pop a dot every time you pop Voltaic Blast and Arc Lightning. Let's pull up the loadout. So you're gonna want to pop a dot every time you hit one of these. So you're going to start with Electrogenesis, Voltaic Blast, Arc Lightning, Tesla Ball, Voltaic Blast, Arc Lightning, Electrocute. Very straightforward. Very easy to follow loadout. We're going to be heavy AoE, heavy dots, because we really want to take advantage of the Strategist card and get that passive damage from it, especially if you have it higher. The higher your artifact is, 160, 180, 200, you're going to get more damage out of it, okay? And of course, we are going to be leveling the Dead King Scepter as well. And you can put that in place of the Eye of Gemini. And you can swap that out if needed, but it does give you the Orbital Strike, Orbital Assistance, which calls down a passive orbital. So it's a lot of free damage. Good artifact to have. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the actual numbers here. We're going to do a full rotation. As always, we're just going to jump straight into it so that you can see what the damage looks like. So let's go. As you can see how the rotation flows, we should sit in the 2 millions fairly easily. We should hover around 2.3, 2.5 mil. We can get up to 2.6, 2.7. You just need to keep it flowing as easily as possible. So we're already at 2.1, 2.3, 2.4, and we should just keep going as the escalating might keeps building. Of course, when you're burning ads, you know, that remains to be seen. But as long as you're staying above that 2 million limit, and of course that is with 200 artifacts, you may see a different number depending on the level of your artifacts, right? Basically, anytime Tesla Ball comes up, you want to pop it. That is a 6-second cooldown, whereas Electrocute and Electrogenesis are a 12-second cooldown. So you're going to be popping Tesla Ball a lot more often than you will anything else. Because we weren't using the finisher a whole lot. We wanted to fill that spot with something else. So the thought process behind that is we wanted to fill it with another dot. I thought about using the robot sidekick, but I overall decided to stick with an actual damage over time so that we can get that passive damage from the strategist card, okay? Because that's going to deal more damage than that robot sidekick in the long run. And we'll pop our Eye of Gemini. We'll get that going. So as long as you rotate your dots, your rotation should stay pretty consistent. You should always have something coming off a cooldown. You should always have a dot ready to go. So that way you can see how quickly we can build the damage over time. You see how quickly we can build the 100 hits for the Batman ally. And I'll show you the allies here in just a second. Alright, so that we're going to go ahead and end it there. You got to see the loadout. You got to see the numbers. We'll scroll up. So you stay consistently over 200. The only time we really went under, 2 mil. The only time we really went under 200 or 2 mil is when I messed up on the loadout, which is my fault. As long as you follow the actual rotation, you'll be fine. You'll never come off of that cooldown, okay? Allies. So we are going to be running Batman. In this case, we're going to be running from the shadows, gain a 7% might boost, 3.5% precision for the first 6 damage hits. So basically the first 6 attacks. Think of it as a mini Eye of Gemini in a sense. So Eye of Gemini, you have 6 seconds running. So with Batman, it's kind of like a small Eye of Gemini, right? It's not going to be running as long because it's 6 hits, not 6 seconds. But we're going off a 100 hit counter. So if we're busting out a ton of dots in this case, that 100 hit counter will always be resetting. It takes about 25 seconds. And then we get a 7% might boost. So we're constantly getting that might boost. In this case, I am running Cyborg as my second passive to get that power back, but you can run the Batman Who Laughs. We're not going to be running the finisher toxin in this case because we are not running the finisher, so we don't need the toxin. You can run Luck of the Draw, and you can get that random buff and hope for that extra might buff. So if you have a troll in the group is the only time I would recommend running this. Otherwise, you'll want to run Cyborg because this is a very power hungry loadout, okay? I do run the Bald City Soda so that I can replenish my power just in case. But if we have a troll in the group, we don't need to worry about that. If you don't have a troll in the group, you need to worry about that, okay? So of course you saw the artifacts. We're going to be running Eye of Gemini, Transformation card, Strategist cards, and like I said, we are going to be running the Dead King Scepter in time. We are leveling that up. Tech mods, we're going to be running max damage in the hands, Tumbling Master in the feet, of course. Nothing really in the legs that stand out. We do have Overcharge here just to fill it out, but we don't really run Overcharge. I am going to be running Supercharge and the chest, but you can put penetrating strikes here if you are going to be running might, and then of course we're going to be running whatever you want in the back. For me, Like I said, I don't change these out. It's biocapacitor. I'm lazy. I run healer. I don't want to switch it out. Next, we're going to be running escalating might. In the back, you could put berserker. It's up to you what you want to run here. I'm just showing you the main tech mods, which is really just going to be the hands and the chest. Because we want to still work off of that Eye of Gemini, we are going to be running the supercharge ability to get that 5% back. But once I switch over to Dead King Scepter, we may go ahead and switch over to penetrating strikes. Sorry about that. But of course, we always want escalating might in the neck. And then in the head, we are going to be running the circuit breaker to get the 5% supercharge back. Whenever we do actually use a 5% supercharge, because it is such a quick cooldown, we want every benefit we can get. So we want the chance to get that back every time that we pop it and get it to cool down. So it does build up very quickly with all of these dots that are running. So you should be able to run it every minute to a minute and a half, as long as you're steadily in combat. So a lot of easy and free damage, right? And then of course we are going to be running the blast adapter in our weapon. So we just want to tap that triangle if you're on the PlayStation. If you're on the PC, I'm not sure what that button is, but I'm sure you do. Alright, so that's the loadout, guys. Very straightforward, just a heavy AoE build. Same exact build as before. The only difference is we are going to be running electrocute in place of the actual finisher. So that way we can take advantage of that free spot instead of just sitting there, not hitting that button for 3 rotations. We can just add an extra damage over time in there and not really worry about it. So it's up to you how you really want to run it. The numbers weren't too different. This just gives you the option to swap your allies around a little bit and just run a heavy AoE loadout, heavy dot loadout. Of course, if you want to run the finisher, by all means, you can refer to the last video and work off that finisher. We were able to get that build up to 2,900,000. But this is still pretty close. We're able to get up to 2.6, 2.7. Yeah, not much more to be said about it. It's pretty straightforward. So I hope this gives you a little bit of insight. I hope you guys got some information out of this to help you if you're wanting to go electric. If you've been electric, you're just wanting to try a different build. Really good build. Recommend it. It's working out for me. Staying at the top of the board. So I'll catch you next time. Wooly out. Stay frosty.